Hi there, my name's James Carroll. I'm a developer at Evil Twin Artworks. And welcome to the Digital Tabletop Fest. Today we're going to be talking about developing games from our point of view, computer games, but also most of our games are actually based on tabletop war games and fantasy games and things like that. So we've got the developer of Evil Twin Artworks of Victory at Sea with us, one of our games. Matthew Sprange. Hello, Matthew.
Hello. Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. And we've also got Ben, who's one of our programmers of Victory at Sea as well.
Yep. Hello.
And basically, just to give you a bit of a insight. As I said, I created a company called Evil Twin Artworks, and always, as you can see behind me, I've got my games room, so I've always played board games. My brother Mark also plays board games. In fact, the white one there, although you can't see, is a Paranoia, which is one of Matthew's other games. So we've got quite a broad spectrum of.
You're a man of good taste.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and that was actually the funny thing, Matthew, when we first started playing. How we found out about you was I actually ended up ordering a copy of Paranoia, and this is obviously in the early days with Evil Twin Artworks, and when I finally got it, it said published in Swindon, and I thought, hang on a minute, that's my hometown. How comes I didn't know about this? Which is why we ended up talking to you. So obviously one of the things we've been developing with Matthew is Victory at Sea. And we also did Victory at Sea Pacific, and now we're on to Victory at Sea Ironclad, which is the game we're showing you today. This is the next step on, set in the American Civil War. So it's going to be different to Pacific, but we're still developing Pacific, and we're looking at bringing out a new update soon. But while we've been working on it, we've been looking at other things, thinking, oh, this would be good for a game. It won't fit into what we've got at the moment, but we've been chatting to Matthew for quite a while about different things, and this is the one he was suggesting. So this one will be launching in early access, so we can do get community feedback and talk to the community about the various bits of the game. But I just thought, first of all, maybe it's good, Matthew, if you just introduce yourself and talk about some of the games that you've created in the past.
Yes, thank you. I'm Matthew. I run Mongoose Publishing, based in Swindon. We produce a variety of tabletop games, mostly role-playing games and a few miniatures games. We've been going for 20-odd years. At the moment, our main games are Paranoia, which you mentioned, Traveller, a science fiction role-playing game, and we also have a license from Microsoft to do the Sea of Thieves role-playing game. We still have our hand in miniatures games. Victory at Sea is a big one, although the miniatures today are produced by a friendly company in Nottingham called Warlord Games, who've just brought out the Pacific Fleets for the tabletop.
Yeah, that's looking nice. A nice little box set with that as well. It's nice to see some more Victory at Sea and coming out. So I mean, that's one of the things that we can talk about in a bit is how it crosses over. But shall we play it, Ben? Let's get in there and have a look at the campaign. So I think what we'll do is we'll start with the tutorial, just so you can get a sense of it and walk in, and we can talk as we go. Then with this one, as I said, it's set in the American Civil War. So one of the main differences for this one, the Pacific is it's a lot more about resources and things like that. So your job, obviously, as the Union, is to set up a blockade of squadrons and prevent the South from getting their cotton, sugar, and coffee out into foreign powers. Starve them out. And obviously, as the Union, is the other way around. So what we've got here is just a little basic introduction to how to play the game. And Ben, you've been obviously looking into how the Union fleets were set up at the beginning of the war and how they developed.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we tried to keep the positions of each ship in their accurate location at the start of the war. obviously things will change later on as the game progresses. You'll change history somewhat, but
Yeah,
we've tried
as
to
you
keep
start, that's it. Yeah, as you start, it will be accurate, but obviously it can divert wildly as we go because of the nature of playing a game.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, when you play the Confederacy, the North's blockade squadrons change, don't they? Because initially it was one blockade squadron, wasn't it?
Yes, and there's a specific date where they reconfigured the fleet, so if you're playing as the Confederates, the Union will start changing up their large blockade squadrons into a few smaller ones.
Yeah, and then we've got it goes into the Gulf squadron and things like that.
That's right.
That's pretty decisive.
Got
So
some-
with regards to the game itself, when you're playing as the North, it'd be up to you to dictate how the squadrons work and things like that. Once you've got your basic squadrons, so
yes.
it starts to get a bit more organic in that respect. So yeah, this is as I said, this is you forming your first squadron. You start small as you go along. Obviously, there's going to be some quite large battles, and hopefully, the aim is to starve out the player, the enemy, as I said. And obviously, as a Confederacy, you've just got to run as many ships through the line as possible.
Yep, and the Union has to try and take down as many as they can.
So yeah, so what we've got here, I mean, is it was obviously the Mongoose's original version of the Victory at Sea games is obviously a turn-based. It'd be, I mean, it would be amazing to see a real-time board game at some point if we can work that one out. But right now, it's got the turn-based sort of thing. So Matthew, I mean, what got you to kind of what gave you the idea to start developing a Civil War game?
Well, as you know, we'd already done the Second World War, a large portion of it for the tabletop. We'd mucked around with First World War set of rules, but we always imagined Victory at Sea as expanding out into different eras. American Civil War was a bit of an oddball choice in a way, but we have a group of very deep naval experts that we use to do our fact checking. We call them the official naval boffins. And one of them, David Manley, had actually taken an older set of our Victory at Sea rules and started to put together American Civil War. It was just an era he was quite interested in. I didn't know anything about this, but he just happened to mention it one day, so I sent the rules along. Took a look at them, liked them a lot, and so I spent time updating them to the current Victory at Sea rule set, making sure they had all the necessary ships in. And before we knew it, we had a full game. We had to do something with it.
I think that was it. That was what we were really interested in. Was that it was quite different to Pacific. There were some different challenges to bring in from the real time. Turn it into a real time game, and what actually distilled it, made it different. As you can see, yeah, that's it. Yeah, we went for a more traditional map. In fact, we were discussing how much it reminds us of our kind of our tabletop war game table, where it's kind of feels a bit felty. There's a kind of a felt to it.
Yeah, definitely going for a more physical feel here.
Yeah, and if you scroll over, Ben, just slow it down a minute before you go into combat. You can scroll around the map a little bit, and you can see. Yeah, as you can see, you've got all the different forts and
some major cities, some forts. Got some towns on the rivers.
And the trick is with this game is to obviously you need to support these towns and build them up. So you'll have major minor ports. You will have more control in this game over how those ports are formed as well. So gun batteries, that sort of thing, building up shipyards. But we'll go over that a bit more as well. Do you want to go a bit more west, Ben, and you can see how many more So it obviously goes on and on and on. There's loads of it, and that's part of the problem. Is from the North's point of view, obviously, is that you've got a lot of leakage. There's a lot of places for blockade runners to escape, and
got a lot of coast.
That's it. So that's part of the challenge, which is quite different with this game. I think is that you've got to start developing fleets and really thinking about how you work into them. So yeah, do you want to go back and we'll stop this one blockade runner again? As I said, for now it starts off with it starts simple, it starts small, because this game, as you go, is obviously there's a lot of information suddenly starts to come up. So right now you've got here, this is your setup, which for those people that have played Victory at Sea will recognise has got a similar sort of thing where you can change your formations as well there.
Yep.
And have an area. Obviously this is open sea at the moment, so you can move it in, and then when you're happy you can start the combat. So over there I think you've got at the beginning there's a solitary blockade runner.
That's an easy foe.
Yeah, that's it. So we can go in and take that one out. So yeah, we've tried to incorporate, obviously, part of the trick from a real-time strategy point of view is obviously to try and make a game like this work. From converting it from a turn-based. So a lot of the back-end rules are there, aren't they, Ben?
Yeah. So all the calculations are from the tabletop game. Of course, you have to translate it from a turn-by-turn game to real-time.
Yeah, and that's
how many seconds each reload cycle takes, that kind of thing.
Yeah, all the fun stuff in the background like that. It's like, but again, it's there's a very deep, an accurate kind of rule set behind. One of the and that's actually this shows one of the challenges in this game is that there's some weird. As Matthew warned us, there's some weird. Gun loadouts as well, isn't there?
Yeah, not so many turrets like in more recent time periods.
Yeah. So you've got a lot of That's also one of the differences in this game, rather than the Pacific. Just harking back to the original Victory at Sea in some respects, in that Pacific had so many ships that there was, you had to rely on the fleets to do what they do themselves a lot more. Whereas in this game, there's a lot more of you getting your ships into position yourself and getting some good decent broadsides like you just got there, and actually trying to take out the fleet like that. So the tactically is a bit more different. It makes you get involved in selecting different ships, selecting the different turrets.
Oh, they got a hit on me there.
That'll be alright. He'll be fine. So yeah, we've got lots of things like obviously you've got your logs and things here, so you can actually see how the battle progressed and what fleets were lost, how badly everything went, or how well everything went. Yeah, I think one of the main differences for this game as well was things like ramming as well, because there was a bit more ramming in this one than in terms of Victory at Sea in terms of World War II and things like that. But there wasn't such a need for ramming in World War II.
Only by
there's
accident.
Definitely, yeah, exactly. So Matthew, I mean, yeah, in that respect, I think that's one of the things, isn't it? Is you were saying you had to convert, obviously taking the Victory at Sea rules and changing them to the American Civil War. I mean, there certain things like obviously presented some challenges, I guess, like we found with rams and the way the different gun configurations work. Was there anything that you needed to really sit down and think about?
Oh god, yeah. I mean, ramming did happen now and again in World War II, but it is rare enough and special occasion enough that you can, in terms of the core rules at least, you can put that to one side and say, right, that's not the point. That's not what really happens. American Civil War, very different. You got ships that were actually built to ram. That's what their intended purpose was. And then they started mounting things like torpedo spars at the front of the ship to make a big boom when you ram something. And that's the point you start realizing, yeah, that's really something we got to think about. So a set of rules that we could very easily skip past in World War II suddenly become front and center because you change era. The benefit of that, I suppose, is when we go to do Victory at Sea Ancients, or whatever we end up calling it, we've already got the ramming rules in there.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, you mentioned the weapon placements as well. Well, when I first started coming to American Civil War, that just at one look at it, I thought this is going to be an absolute nightmare, because in World War II it's very, very simple. Most ships have one or two turrets at the front, one or two at the back, and that's more or less all you have to worry about for the big guns. And then you can just make some special rules for the very few number of odd cases. But all of a sudden, every ship in this era is an odd case to one degree or another. It seemed to be just a case of if they found a flat bit of deck, yep, we'll put a gun on it.
I suppose that's it. Yeah, just get whatever you can. Especially it seems like the more I researched it, the more it seemed there was more than anything. There was a desperate sort of rush to get combat ready ships, and so they could just get whatever they could to turn into something that would be ready for combat, essentially.
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, they're putting cotton bales down the side of the boats to give them armor, which was actually a lot more effective than it sounds. And loading so many guns onto a ship, it actually starts sinking into the water, which is more or less fine on most rivers. But once you get out to the open sea, not so much fun. No.
So yeah, Ben, you were just looking at the town, weren't you? Where were you again? It was.
I was up in Baltimore. I loaded some
Baltimore
troops onto one of my ships.
Yeah.
So you
basically
a fort.
So there's a lot more in this game in terms of you can customize, and again, because of the nature of the how bespoke these ships were to some extent, in terms of the customization and things like that you can as a player define what you fill this thing up with. You can fill it up with troops, or you can fill it up with resources and cargo. There's a lot more emphasis on actually going around and supplying the ports as you go as well.
Yes, those resources are important. We've got our gold, wood, coal, iron. Of course, the north will have the more coal, iron, industrial kind of materials. Whereas the south is going to have a lot of cotton, sugar, and so on, which they can go off and trade overseas.
Lots of things they desperately need to get for gold and ships, and basically sell them so they can get in the fight.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is going to be the attack on Fort Hatteras and Clark, isn't it?
That's right.
So essentially, at the beginning, your first one is just to do a raid of Fort Hatteras, and then we're going to try and take Fort Clark, because you obviously got some troops, didn't you? And loaded it out with enough troops to be able to land it at Fort Clark.
Yep. So it should hopefully be enough to overcome their garrison.
Again, as this game progresses, you need to really, look at that sort of thing and the way it's set up, because these ports will be reinforcing as they go and get in, shipyards, more barracks, so you can have more troops and sailors and various other things. So it's definitely something you need. It's basically a race, isn't it? A resource race to try and get as many resources to your fleet as possible, so you can take it out. And the good thing is with this game as well, you'll be able to speed up time. You can do that, can't you, Ben, by what we're on at the moment.
I've quadrupled the time scale.
And we're currently fiddling with the time scale to work out the best way to do it. So right now, you've selected just general attack, yeah?
Yes. So they're just heading in the general direction of the forts. They're going to start.
So there's different ways you can attack with staying in formation, can't you? And
yes.
Or this is kind of a. This was a tactic they used early on, wasn't it? That changed, but they just park outside and just start bombarding it.
Yes, there was some clever admiral or other which he came up with the idea of maybe moving while getting shot at by the port guns, which worked a bit better.
Yeah. So the idea here is we're just going to be raiding the fort, isn't it?
Yeah, if we can take out these port structures. So they have a few earthworks here.
Excellent. And this one we need to land troops on, don't we?
Yes. So the Minnesota has 500 Marines aboard.
Cool. So Matthew, what started you out with making tabletop games anyway? I mean, because I know you like your video games as well, don't you?
I do. I first got into tabletop games when I was in primary school with the old Fighting Fantasy and Lone Wolf books. Before I left primary school, I'd already played my first RPG, Tunnels and Trolls, because a teaching assistant came in, saw the books we were reading, and said, "I've got a game you might like." Between going to primary and secondary school, I managed to pick up the old red box Dungeons and Dragons. Very quickly got into other games like Judge Dredd and, funnily enough, Traveller. Picked up Warhammer along the way as well, and kind of never looked back. As for actually producing them, I tried a real job and I didn't like that very much, so I just instead.
You've had a lot of you've had a lot of really cool licenses in the past. It's always interesting. Always meant to ask you where you got the idea of Mongoose. It seems like something that punches well above its weight. A Mongoose, essentially.
That's really not what we were thinking.
Yeah, I did wonder because you've got some really cool licenses. I mean, it's always something cool to look at. It's great coming to your offices and seeing all the like the new Sea of Thieves RPG you've made and things like that. It's some really great licenses. They're always exciting. I mean, if we were a bigger team, you never know. One day, hopefully, we can enlarge and expand. But if we were a bigger team, I think we'd have every license you've got and just make everything we can because there's too many cool things to make. But I think we started off similar. Like I said, I still love playing tabletop games, and I think it's kind of a no-brainer for us to play make games that we love to play. I think as Mark and I always love telling stories, and I think games is a great way for people to actually be able to tell their own stories and to create a narrative, and tabletop games are great at that as well. And so to be able to kind of create your own stories within existing licenses like Victory at Sea and things like that, it's really exciting. And I think
sorry, I think that's the key of it. We've done quite a few licenses in the past, but the guiding principle has always been is to produce the games that we want to play ourselves.
Absolutely.
We've never taken a license simply because we thought we could make a decent amount of money out of it. That would just bore the hell out of me. That's one reason we haven't, for example, done any Cthulhu-based games. It's not something that up to now at least hasn't really grabbed me. But things like I'm just looking at my shelves at the moment: Conan the Barbarian, Starship Troopers, Babylon 5. Yeah, give me more of that.
Definitely, yeah. I think all those sort of fighting fantasy games. That's what's great about like the original fighting fantasies. I think was the same. Was that it almost was. It's your first attempt by people like Dungeons and Dragons. I always think it's the first attempt like to make something like Skyrim, but because the technology is not there, you're kind of creating this like procedural world that you're developing as you go. And it's again, there's still room for it, and that's what's great. I was always surprised by new games and and new ways of playing things. What are you playing at the moment isn't one of your games. Is there anything you've got? Because I know you're busy making your own. Sometimes it's a bit like a busman's holiday where you don't really fancy playing something else. But
well, no, actually,
you're playing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we mandate at Mongoose is Friday afternoons we drop tools and play games.
Okay.
We figure if we're going to make games, then really we need to be playing them as well.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with the virus, that's kind of been knocked on the head for the foreseeable future, which is a shame because we're about to launch into a massive, 2-year traveller campaign, which I was really looking forward to. So, I have been getting a few games of Warhammer Age of Sigmar in. We're playing through a narrative campaign for that. As you say, all about storytelling. But now I want the virus to be gone and the office to be full of staff again. Yeah.
I think that's where I discovered, because I still like, if I'm playing board games, I like to be with people, but we have tried like Roll20 and Tabletop Simulator for playing remotely, and but again, there's nothing about the immediate. It still can't beat the immediacy of actually being in the same room and playing things, But we organised that with some friends of mine. Have got my friend and his son, and so one of the bubble, as we all call it. We've been playing Root, which is the one we've been playing for recently. So that's been a good fun. I don't know if you know that one, but again, I love the mechanic of that, where it's actually someone plays the Marquis the Cat, who's basically like the Sheriff of Nottingham, and then you've got the Woodland Alliance, which are basically the peasants, the disgruntled peasants slowly building up, getting angrier and angrier, and you've got the Eyrie, who are the old guard, the birds that have been displaced from the woods, and it's a really clever sort of asymmetric game where, like at the beginning, the whole board is covered in cats, evil cats, basically, and so that, like the Woodland Alliance have got nobody around, and they just they've got to start sowing seeds of dissent and going from there, basically. So it's definitely it's nice because we all have completely different objectives. So again, that's what's great about board games and role-playing games, is that you can, you've got your own kind of approach to these things. You can different tactics and things. And again, that's sometimes difficult with the Ironclad. Like for instance, as I said, this is going into early access, and we'll announce a date as we go. But it's just a case of making sure that story and the balance of the timing is working. And especially with this one, it's been quite different because obviously all the towns and that can be upgraded, but also it is that fight for resources. So if you're in the south, getting those fleets out and to places like Britain and that to try and sell your cotton. And there's Ben, you've got, that's your resources there, isn't it?
Yep. A little bit of income of everything but cotton and sugar.
these are all your forts now, and so it's a case of now going into New York and upgrading. Again, it's abstracted,
build a ship.
this game. Yeah, build some ships. You've got lots of different types, and it shows you what resources you need.
Yep. So
But yeah, it's an abstracted sort of version, isn't it, of the port, so that it allows the player to build up, isn't it, Ben?
Yes, yeah, so you can construct barracks for more troops, you can construct naval defences or forts, or of course farms to get more food, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Let's go for a sloop.
How long it takes to build.
Yes, fortunately a little quicker than it would be in real life. Or you'd have a very small navy.
Yeah, so this is the Anaconda plan, isn't it, Ben? As it says, and now it starts to go into that.
Yeah, it's basically the navy being like the snake that wraps around the Confederacy, blocking all their trade routes.
And that covers the objectives there, so you've got an objectives window.
Yeah, so you're pretty much free to do what you like, but the objectives are there to guide the players.
And the first one is obviously to go back in and take on Fort Clark.
Yes,
And
I've taken one of the two. I now have control of the whole navy, so we've got the Atlantic Blockade Squadron on its patrol route.
So yeah, so now the other fleets start to appear that you get control of.
Yep.
And you can set your own patrol routes, can't you, as well?
Definitely.
So if we just skip that for now, so slow it down a minute and have a look at what we've got. So because you can set time from 0 to 200, can't you? Is it 200? No, 400, isn't it? And,
currently 200.
200, yeah. I lose track because we've been fiddling.
The numbers are constantly changing.
Yeah, may be different by the time we get to launch in early access.
Yeah.
As of right now, like I said, early access is going to be. It's going to. I think, like with Victory at Sea, it's one thing I would have liked to wish we'd done in Victory at Sea Pacific was actually take it into early access because there's been great collaboration with people. We had some really great discussions and ongoing. There's always somebody with a great idea, and we think, oh, okay, yeah, we can work into this. Which is where the idea for Ironclad being, because it's not just a reskin. There was a lot of things we had to do to change, wasn't it, Ben, as well? There's a lot of variations to this one.
Yeah, it's almost a century earlier. Things are different.
Yeah, and just mechanically, the background, things like the way the fleets work and the way the combat works changed as well.
Yes, all for the better.
Yeah. So I think one of the things to talk about here, I guess, is the it's getting a bit dark now. It's night time. But the overall the way the game works in terms of getting the fleets and the resources around the ports.
Yes, of course each port has its own region with its, for example, around Washington DC there's a tobacco plantation. Could build, for example, a gold mine here, maybe a coal mine. Let's go for an iron mine. Of course the enemy will be doing the same thing as well as sending their blockade runners out to off the map.
Yeah, so they'll be heading off into Europe. Taking their fleets as they go. But one of the things, obviously, as well, like I said, is that you'll start to, as these patrols happen, and there's the hated British in the but so getting them and going down into you'll start to see some blockade runners trying their best to take a cheeky run down, won't they?
Yeah.
So yeah, Ben. So what we guess we can do now is if we have a look. So we've got, and what's that built? We've got
looks
some.
like the enemy's just attacked Fort Wall and got obliterated.
Okay. Yeah, so we've got Fort Wall being attacked here as well. So we need to get some ships going around and dropping off to the ports all the resources and things, isn't it?
Yes, if we use a fleet to transport some cargo, that'll increase production of our ports. So if I tell these chaps to get some cargo from New York, they should start distributing it around the nearby ports. Oh, we've engaged the enemy on the Potomac.
You have a look. So the plan is that all the combats will end up being giving you the start, won't it, Ben, with the deploying the fleets.
Yes.
So a little bit earlier into the games, into the combat, essentially.
Definitely.
And one of the challenges I think for this one is obviously creating the river battles as well, because we've got a lot of, well, you haven't seen it there, but there's river battles that obviously occur, and we spent a lot of time, didn't we, looking at the way the formations moved around the rivers. And I mean, thankfully places like the Mississippi are quite wide,
Yeah.
but even then it just seems like quite a challenge to actually have naval engagements in these sort of relatively tight spaces. You give it spoilt in the Pacific because it's so massive.
Yeah, it's quite a contrast.
So you mentioned that was one of the challenges that cropped up, because as you say, in the Pacific you do get islands to worry about, but writing the tabletop game for Victory at Sea, you can just say, well, ship's got to stay away X amount of inches away from any land mass, but once you get to rivers, you can't do that anymore, so you're scratching your head, I've got to write the rules.
Well, it looks like he's on fire.
And he's
Got him.
Yeah, let's see if I can find some enemies on a river.
And also get some ships down to a. Oh, there's a blockade runner or something coming up. Where's he trying to? Where's he off to?
We've got some chaps up
But also-
there on the Mississippi.
Yeah. Also try and get get some troops into Fort Clark as well. Oh, it's Fort Hatteras even.
Yeah. So I'm sending someone or
Oh, he's
other.
going. Cool. Yeah, and also the other thing with this game is you can set waypoints. I don't think we'll bother right now because I think we've just got there's a few tweaks to that. But where the fleets, as things get more dangerous, you might get cut off. Say, for instance, and to stop to tell ships to go round a safe route. We've got waypoints that they'll use, won't they, Ben?
Yes, so you can queue up waypoints for a patrol, for example.
And there's general kind of areas that they'll manoeuvre around as well, so you can set kind of zones, can't you, where to
Yeah.
avoid areas.
Looks like the river just doesn't want to show up.
No, yeah, that's interesting. All the fancy rivers. This is a part of the early access experience as well. Yeah, well, pre-early access that we're testing these things out and.
Got some gunboats here.
Cool. Yeah, so we've got the river combats that will be working properly when they come in. I think something's happened here.
Yeah.
And the port attacks as well. So you'll be able to obviously invade these ports as you go, and they can make a right mess of your fleet. That's one thing I've found as a challenge in this game. Is obviously you can take a wide berth around ports in Pacific, but in this one to actually suddenly find yourself in a position where the enemy are there, and you can fire a few volleys as you're trying to sail past, trying to get to your location. It can be quite hairy.
Yeah, there's a lot of ports along the Mississippi.
Yeah. So how's Fort Clark coming on? Is it the Hatteras? Is that ship coming in?
I've got to collect a few troops.
Cool. And that's it. And this is where we're at with this as well. Like I said, we've got these various different aspects where you can change the loadout of your ship.
Yes, you can have a loadout which can carry more cargo, for example. Or you can increase your crew complement, so everything will be done that bit more efficiently.
So what we've got you've essentially you've got your sailors, you've got your troops and your resources there, and you've got you spent a while, didn't you, Ben, looking at the capacities of these things?
Yeah, I've got a bit of a formula to work that out. You can even, if you want, remove the weapons from a ship to make it a pure cargo ship, or cram it full of troops.
So tactically, this is what I was trying in a previous combat where we went to the attacked a port, and the enemy were obviously trying to take out our ships. So I used a lot of ships all tooled up with guns, and one that was just full of troops, and tried some different tactics. So keeping that one back and then trying to ram it through. To take out some of the enemy.
Yeah.
I'm going to get him.
It's a slightly faster fleet here.
That's also part of the problem, isn't it, with this, is that they are blockade runners. And trying to do some quick sneaky manoeuvres is part of it sometimes, is to actually find some relatively fast ships.
Perhaps if I send a sloop after them.
So yeah, so you can split the fleets, as you can see there, and create your own squadrons. So you can actually, So obviously, if it's, a squadron is only really as fast as its slowest ship, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it looks like they're cornering themselves anyway. Good for us.
I think they're going to try and pick some resources up of it, possibly.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so yeah, essentially this is an example of the river combat. So we've got a small fleet here, and we've got some blockade runners at the other end. In fact, Ben, just maneuver them up towards it using the so they'll stay in formation rather than the free attack for now. So we can have a look at using the Q&E, and we can look at the different ways of fighting.
Sure.
So if you fly up to the other end, we can have a look.
See what we're up against.
The enemy's fleet, see who we're up against.
I've got a couple of gunboats.
And what have we got?
Quite a varied bunch here.
And these were all historically accurate, weren't they, in terms of the squadron?
Oh yeah, these are all part of the blockade squadron. Yeah, so we've got a gunboat, a sloop, a little tug, and a steamer.
So what we were looking at here as well is that this was part of the challenge with the game. And again, I suppose historically this was part of the challenge, was the fact that these ships work so differently because they are so bespoke, and there is a real race, isn't there? A real change when you get your ironclads.
Yes. So yeah, once they start showing up later in the game, they can do a hefty amount of damage to wooden ships.
And obviously, as you're clicking on there, it's all the different weird arcs all the ships have got as well.
Yeah. Got a couple of howitzers on this one.
And as you did in the main game on the map, you can actually change this, can't you? So we can split the fleets out if we want, into different individual ships and lots of different routes, can't we? But I mean, so you can, obviously in a river combat, there's more of it's a tighter arena, but there are, open bays and like Fort Hatteras and Clark's obviously was a wider arena in that respect as well. So there's different challenges, and so you can split your ships off and micromanage them that way, or you can select the entire squadron and go in for an attack.
Yeah, whatever tactic works for you.
And I've definitely found that actually playing this with Pacific, I like to increase the time speed quite a lot because it's so much going on. But with this one, it's definitely I prefer controlling the ships as we go. Looking at the individual ships and actually managing the fleet the squadron you're working with.
For sure, yeah. Slightly more self-contained.
Yeah. There's also that balancing act with the time speed as well, because you don't want to rush into battle and then suddenly find yourself nose to nose with them. You want to try and get your forces within range and start firing when you can, really.
For sure, yeah. They're getting there.
Not quite close.
Maybe a bit too close.
Yeah, a little too close.
Come on, get into mortar range.
And again, because they're so wildly different ships that like in Pacific. Oh, no, that'll do. That you've got a certain degree of. Some ships have got such a different scope in terms of their ranges and things, haven't they? And the different such different things.
Yeah, some pretty hefty cannons. This one only has little puny 32-pounders.
and that is it's this waiting game for the guns to reload.
Yeah.
But some of the guns as well, they are they're shared, aren't they, around the different. So they'd have to pull them out and put them in different areas.
Yes, especially in some of the Ironclads with their casemates.
I'm just getting him into that position and it just eking into the range.
Let's turn him round.
Don't need it so far.
Uh-oh, I'm ramming him if I'm not careful.
Nice. Obviously, he's had some significant damage because you can have the different systems damaged, can't you? So when they stop, they probably have got their means of propulsion, whichever type of ship it is, has been damaged to the point where it can't move anymore.
Yeah, either their paddle wheel or their engine. Nearly got you. There we go.
So yeah, that's. I think we're kind of coming towards the end of this anyway, because we only get an hour of gameplay. But yeah, I just wanted to say if you want to go sign up to the mailing list to find out when we're ready to launch this into early access, you can go to victoryatseagame.com and join a mailing list. You'll also be able to go to the Steam page and look up Victory at Sea Ironclad and add it to your wish list, so that you're ready for when it comes out in early access. And it's I think, you know, once we're ready, we'll launch it. We'll send out a mailing list and let you know what's going on. And that's my timer going off there.
Oh,
So
just in
yeah, I
time.
just want to say thanks to everyone for watching this, and thanks to Matthew for joining in.
No, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben, for being our player in this, because I think I would not
No
have
problem.
had. I'm not an octopus, and I can't play or do everything else at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I'll just wrap up. Is there any exciting news you've got, Matthew, that you want to share? Anything coming up in the pipeline?
Yeah, loads. We've got so many projects on at the moment, specifically for Traveller. I made the decision earlier this year that we would complete all the projects we said we were going to complete, and we're only like 3 weeks behind that schedule, with like 3 months to go.
Excellent. Well, that's good news anyway. Yeah, and there's yeah, hopefully, as I said, this is our next big launch. Will be the Victory at Sea Ironclad on Steam. So and this, obviously, Ben's just finally, we're into a port attack now. Just running out of time to do that, unfortunately. But you'll be able to have a go, and we'll be doing more videos and doing more announcements as we go anyway. So yeah, please feel free to go to the Steam page and wishlist the game, and if you can go join our mailing list, go to victoryatseagame.com and sign up, and we can keep you posted on how this is progressing and what we're up to.